Now, I'd like to move forward with the panel discussion. So for the panel discussion, just how Priyanka wrapped up the conversation, mentioning about the COVID and the vulnerability of the travel sector and industry, I'd like to question Liz, something related with it. As much as the communities are in vulnerable place, there are also challenges for tour and travel operators, especially dealing with youths and European market, like on how to send the travelers back to the communities. So I would like to ask Liz that what do you see as an impact while you are trying to engage student travelers to go to or select the community-based travel? What are some of the feedbacks that you received from schools? So yeah, to Liz.
Thanks, Ayesha. Yeah, so I think overall, that part of the trips that we run is, I guess, up there with the trekking as probably one of the most important parts for our travellers. It's the reason that they choose to do an expedition, a more traditional school trip elsewhere. And I'd say that the experience that they have with the community is generally probably the most memorable part of their overall travel. So it's those interactions, and often it's really the small moments, it's the conversations and the games and learning something that they maybe never thought they would, or eating something that they perhaps never thought they would, or eating from a leaf, which was probably quite unique to some of the teenagers depending on where they're from. So I would suggest that kind of the feedback from the students is definitely that of kind of excitement and adventure and an appetite to kind of get out into the world and experience more. But then from the teacher's perspective, that it's that part of the trip where they really see the kind of growth in the students. They really see them stepping outside of their comfort zone, interacting in experiences that probably challenge them, are often a little bit more basic. Apologies if you can hear the sirens outside. Yeah, probably a little bit more basic, a little bit more rustic travel than they would perhaps usually do with their families, or kind of on a family vacation or something like that. So really kind of stretches them. And I think we all kind of know, and one of the sort of aims of our trips is really to get people in that stretch zone, just outside their comfort zone, where they're learning and they're growing and they're developing as individuals. And that's why they get such enjoyment from it and remember it so fondly, because they've really been able to kind of challenge themselves a little bit while they're there as well. But yeah, definitely overall positive, and often we get requests actually from teachers to go back to the same communities year on year, because they have such a wonderful time that they want to keep visiting the same people and taking their students there year and year again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with getting more experience, immersive experience through community-based travel and tourism. Like over the years, I'm pretty sure the definition has been changing, because we don't have a very concrete definition of what community-based travel or tourism is. And I think it shouldn't be that way as well. Like it must be around community, about contributing to the locals and getting a win-win situation, both for the travelers and the local communities. So my next question would be for Nora. So I would like to know more about how has community-based tourism evolved in the past decade?
Thank you very much, Ayesha. It's a tricky question. I just think it's becoming more and more popular. And I was thinking about the opening of the tourism fair ITB last year, where Mr. Habeck, Federal Minister of Economic Affairs, opened the fair, and he was saying that tourism is very important for peace, because when people travel, they leave the familiar, they have new experiences, they meet new people, and that enables tolerance in the end, and understanding to become part of everyday's life. And I really like that sentence, because I think this is also what community-based tourism is about. You experience another world, you get to know another culture, you exchange, you maybe also reflect on your own position here in Europe, in a developing country. So I think it's very important in general. And I think in that sense, community-based tourism, yeah, it just enables a way to practice sustainable tourism. And with, I think, the whole crisis, I think everybody realized that this is the future of tourism, that we need to take care of our suppliers, of our guides. It's not that we stay in a mass tourism resort somewhere and see nothing of the country visited. It's engaging people, leaving something, economic benefit for the ones visited. And yeah, bringing back understanding for the rest of the world in a way. I'm not sure if that exactly answers your questions, Ayusha, but
yeah, I think we pretty much understand the concept behind how it has been evolving. Like, I think it is always about the people and communities and experience we gain from them, even though the definitions are evolving and we don't have a concrete definition yet, right? So moving forward, I'd like to ask Anton, like, just echoing with what Nora said, like it's about keeping peace and promoting the lesser known areas, or I think with along with giving benefits to the local, community-based tourism also tackles with a lot of other issues like diversification of mass crowded areas, or giving the tourism benefits to the locals instead of big hotels that cater to the mass population. So there are various things. So my question to Anton is, what are some of the ways that you have used in order to promote previously lesser known areas? Because must be very difficult to make what Vada looks like, or what the experience in Nepal looks like from Netherlands. So what are some of the ways that you have been including in your packages, or to communicate with your travelers to help them understand better about the lesser known areas in the remote destinations? Thank you.
Thank you. Our company is Travel Life certified. That means that sustainable travel is very important for us, and we try to implement that in most in the tours wherever possible. The travelers we have, as I just mentioned, they're mainly 40 plus years old, so they traveled already a lot. You mention a destination and they say, oh, seen that, I done it. That's why we are looking for new destinations in a country where people already visited. Like in Nepal, it's not only the mountains, the wildlife and the temples. Also, it's nice to experience traditions, and you can do this best in the community homestays, of course. Enjoy the food, see what's happening, how the people live. Now, of course, it's difficult to explain it to clients if they've never been in this region. So I was very happy that I could join one of our tours last April, May, and experience everything myself. So next step is I have to, I already did, give a presentation to our team, our sales team, so they can explain our clients if they have questions, of course. We have some information days where we can speak to the people, try to interest them for the tours, tell them why this is very special. Of course, we do this in webinars, also online webinars, especially during COVID, because that time it was not possible to see face-to-face our clients. Newsletters, digital newsletters, photos, films, we show as much as possible to the clients so they can see what they can expect. And of course, social media like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think the people who participate to this meeting also can help with this. Share
you,
share everything that you post on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Yeah, we are also planning to send in the recordings for our registered participants. So I think this is a way we can keep on communicating and highlighting the importance of community-based tourism. So moving on, a question for Priyanka, like what does, because we are talking about keeping the communities at the center and empowering communities. So what does empowering communities mean to Planetera?
Thanks, Ayusha. So for us at Planetera, it is where, like what everybody is talking about today, is where the experience is owned, led, and run by the community. We just go in to act like the little trigger, the little catalyst where the community says, hey, I have this great idea, I have this great experience, but I have no experience in hospitality. I have no experiences interacting with travelers. I have no experience in that. So that's where we just go in to just, give that little push, that little catalyst where the community already knows what they want to do. And what we help is with the market connectivity. So we'll go in, and it could be something as simple like you need to just sanitize better. There needs to be better sanitary practices in place. If there's a washroom, you have to make sure it's clean. And in some of our places, especially in South Asia, in Southeast Asia, we have some great practices where we open our footwear and enter a cafe, enter a home, and all of that. So there are things like that which they are already doing, which is part of the system. So it's what the question is, like, I'm coming to that, like, they already know that, they're already doing that. So we're saying you want to do this tourism experience, just do it as per what you do within your homes, within your communities, where even if travelers, if they're comfortable, why don't we ask them, it's the post-COVID world, to open their shoes outside and maybe walk right in. So that helps you even keep the place more sanitized. And it's something natural we do in our homes in at least Asia Pacific region, washing of hands, so things like that, which they are already doing in their homes, and sometimes they're just a little hesitant. So we just give that little push where the communities feel confident and they take pride in what they have always been doing, and then they realize, oh, it's no big deal. And at the most, we go in and we tell them, okay, these are the dietary plans the travelers sometimes have. This is vegan, this is gluten free, this is this, and this is that, and those are the kind of things they are probably new jargons that we need to equip them with. And like, how do you serve your traveler, how do you talk to the traveler? Rest, they already know everything. So it's community owned and led, because when I go into community, there's like, we have this great song, can I do this? We have this way of welcoming guests when they come home, like in Nepal and a lot of other places. We have a kata where we welcome our guests, and we are like welcoming them with a namaste, because we are like seeing you as a god, and we are welcoming you with that. So we're like, okay, so in like South India, we have not a kata, but we have something similar, but which is like a white stole. So they wanted to welcome that with a tilak and tika, which Anton also experienced in Nepal. And we were like, yes, go ahead, it is your culture, you must do that. So it's nothing. We tell them it's not that you have to import something from outside to run your experience. You already have that, it's unique to you, go with it. If you want to serve a meal off a leaf, just sanitize it well, explain it, and travelers have really well received it whenever our partners have done that. So it's just taking pride in your own culture, and there are very few things that we as Planetera go in and kind of help equip them. They know everything. Sometimes like, ma'am, I don't know English, or like, it's okay, but out of 9 of you, 1 knows English, and that's more than enough for you to translate. And then somebody's like, I want to do this harvest song, you want to dance on that? Like, go ahead. She'll just give a gist to the travelers, and travelers have loved it, and travelers have even joined those harvest songs. So it's amazing. And like we said, like, this has brought a shift when Planetera has done this. Communities have come to us. We've helped them do what they already knew, just help them connect them to the market better, just polish the thing a little. When I see polish, I don't mean that we start using a fork and a knife. I mean, like, we sanitize those plates and we make them take pride in what they already know. And what the feedback we get today is that the youth from those communities, which was looking at migration to a city as the only possibility for a livelihood or opportunity, is staying back and is seeing another source of income. They are taking pride in their culture. So it's a great way where we go in, where it's community led. They realize, they preserve their culture. And when you see travelers coming in, the youth is now saying, hey, this is cool. These are the words I've been told by some community ladies. Now my son comes to me and say, hey, mom, what you're doing is cool. So it's suddenly cool for the youth. And when they see their mothers and their fathers participating in creating these amazing experiences, be it these handicrafts like Anton received, I think, the Dhaka Topi in Nepal. So these handicrafts, which are really unique to each region. So if we are making that and giving those as souvenirs and where travelers can take those back, that's what makes it truly Planetera. And we say it's unique because it's community led, owned, run, and it's nothing that we get from outside. They already have it. They just sometimes don't realize it. It's right in front of them that they can just run this enterprise. So that's where we come in as Planetera Foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Priyanka. I think I am loving how the conversation is flowing from one conversation to another and connecting it so well. So just going back to Anton's conversation a while ago, like for this question is for Anton and what Priyanka just said, like I think we are a key for communicating like a bridge for the communities as well as the travelers. So I would like to know Anton's experience as he has been recently to Nepal and visited 3 community homestays. So what were the standards across the community homestays and how do you manage the expectations among the travelers in that sense? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you inform your clients in advance so they know what to expect, because the luxury they have in their own place, it's probably not in the homestay. If clients are prepared, well prepared, and the information they get is correct, then they will enjoy it better, of course. The first homestay I stayed in Bada, it just opened. You can, due to COVID, they didn't receive a lot of clients, but when we speak with the people there, we hear from them that they want to earn some money so they can send their children to school, but also save money to make their homestay better. For instance, in this particular homestay, they are saving money to change the public toilet for private toilets for each separate room. So it's what they're planning to do. What would be nice, and that's not everywhere, is that at least one of the people in the family's various stay can speak English, better for the communication. It will take some time, of course, because people need to learn English. Some of the locations, they have Wi-Fi, so you can use Google Translate, of course, if you want to ask something, but also that's not everywhere possible. And I think what's very important also is listen to your clients, ask their evaluations, what do they think of the homestay? Does what they do what they expected matches what they experienced in reality? Things like that. Also, waste management, I heard it earlier, also is important. In one of the places, we saw some plastic bottles there. They were on a pile, how you call this in English. So we asked the owner of the house, why is this there? Because it's not looking very clean. And he said to us, we're gathering them. When we have enough, we can change them with a shopkeeper for onions. So they don't throw it away. They use it for bargaining. Yeah, I think that's a bit what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you, Anton. Yeah, sometimes I think speculating why they're gathering the plastic bottles versus their negotiation power over them is very important. I think communicating with the communities is important, and definitely language is a part of it. But yeah, we are getting to it, and we're helping communities understand the travelers' need and also understanding travelers, the expectations that they need to hold with the communities. So thank you so much for your insight. So moving forward, I'd like to ask Nora, like a question, as you've been engaged with travel and tour operators since a long time, what are few of the few things or pointers that travel and tour operators need to consider while they are including community-based tourism in their tours?
Thanks, Ayusha. I think a lot has been covered already, also by Anton just now. It's about expectation management, preparation, that you need to make the clients aware what is expecting them, what they should bring, what they can expect in the homestay, maybe like equipment, kind of, is there a towel, things like that. So when they come prepared. On the other hand, I believe the homestay needs to ensure a certain standard of hygiene, of comfort. Also, the mattresses were mentioned. I think a good night's sleep is important to everyone. Yeah, so I think it's a balance between ensuring a certain quality of the homestay, also ensuring that the whole community benefits somehow from the tourism project, not only a certain community members, but the whole community has a profit out of it. So there's acceptance of tourism in the community. And on the other hand, yeah, being clear to the traveler what they get, what they should bring. I think that's the most important part. And then I heard it in Nepal about the spices, that the Europeans can't handle the Nepali spices, obviously. So sometimes you might need to adjust in order to make them happy, like 100% traditional. As I mentioned, the chicken in the presentation, slaughtering a chicken is maybe authentic, but maybe it's a bit too much for the clients. They would like to have the chicken, but not see the slaughtering. So I think it's a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nara, for your insights. Yeah, I think safety concerns and sanitation, I think, is always a top priority for any travelers. So as we have faced COVID and still having it around like the third wave, fourth wave, I have even stopped the count for it. So my next question is for Liz, like, what are some of the concerns that are raised by travelers while organizing community-based travel trips soon after the COVID situation? Because I'm pretty sure you are very busy with organizing trips now. So what are some of the concerns, especially during the post-COVID times?
No problem. Thanks, Aisha. Yeah, I guess we're operating a lot more trips than we actually expected to this year, post-pandemic, and certainly bringing a lot of challenges. I think the biggest concerns from our sort of parents of our travellers are around the requirements, understanding the requirements, understanding what happens if somebody does contract COVID, understanding the isolation, how that will work, how we get them home. And for us, the answer to that has been great communication with our ground partners to really properly understand the requirements in the destination, and then communicating that out back to the travellers to make sure that they're fully briefed on kind of what to expect. We have had a few questions from travellers around kind of hygiene and COVID transmission risk in communities, mostly linked to homestays. But interestingly, we've actually had far more concerns from the communities themselves, and I think that's probably completely justified. You know, travellers are going over, they're sitting on a plane, they're in an airport, they're in towns and cities, they're moving around. There's a lot of risk of transmission before they reach the community, and the community is likely relatively isolated from that level of risk. So actually we've been more focused, I think, on that side of things and how can we mitigate risk of transmission into the community. So working with all of the communities to really understand how they feel, what their tolerances are, what precautions they'd like our students to take. Do they want mask wearing? Do they want distancing? Like making sure there's hand sanitizer, there's lots of hand washing, and maximising hygiene. So I think you know, in terms of the travellers themselves, the students are catching COVID sadly quite frequently at school in the UK, and there's still quite a lot of cases around. But when they get to the destination, I don't think the risk to them really increases at all. But we really want to manage that carefully to make sure that we're not putting the communities at additional risk, and make sure everybody kind of feels safe. Obviously, if somebody does contract when they're overseas, it brings its own logistical challenges, but we've seen a few, and we're working through them, and definitely making it work. And it's certainly not a reason to stop travel anymore, which is a very, very positive place to be after the last couple of years. So hopefully by this time next year we'll not be talking about it anymore.
Yeah, I really hope that. We really hope that, I think. So yeah, I think thank you so much, everyone. Like, all the insights and experience has been really helpful, and I'm sure our participants are also knowing a lot more, and also maybe adding or relating with the conversation as well. So like, the time is going on really quickly, so I really want to wrap up the session with one question to each of you, like a common question for all of you. Please take a minute to answer the question. So maybe starting with Liz, how can we make like a travel tour operators make community-based tourism more beneficial to the locals? Thank you.
Well, that's quite a tricky one. So I think it's really all about good collaboration, good communication, good partnerships. It's about understanding what both sides want to get out of the relationship and understanding how we can maximize it. It's about moving away from traditional views of travel, where we are probably much more heavily viewed on what we want the guests to experience, and really, really prioritizing what they're getting out of the experience, and shifting to that view where we take into account both sides and we find a way where everybody gets the positive outcomes together, and we're not kind of just expecting the communities to create the experience that the traveller might have in their mind. And I'm not saying that we want to disappoint the travellers, as we know, there are certain levels of expectation that we must have, but I think there's also a lot of value in giving the travellers an opportunity to experience something a little bit different to perhaps what they might traditionally have looked for, and that can be additionally beneficial for the community. So yeah, working together, communicating well, and understanding everybody's perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. So I'd like to reiterate the same question to Priyanka as well.
Yeah, keeping it, what's the question? Is that keeping it
more beneficial to the locals?
For the locals, yeah. So one, beneficial, yeah, long-term sustainability, seeing that it takes wings and it really flies off, connecting the experience to the market, so they can actually benefit, the locals can truly benefit from the experience, encouraging communities to like save like a 10% from the savings or from the tourism enterprise into a community tourism fund, which has been a great success for most of our partners. I heard Anton also talk about that, because those the money saved of there goes into so many of these development programs within communities. So education, paying the fees of the teacher, principals, sanitation drives. There are lots of things that we need to do. For those of us who are in this region, know what happens and goes around in a village. There are n number of needs: a hand pump broken, a roof is leaking, there's a death, there's a marriage. So these kind of things help the community to sustain themselves, and that's how they're going to benefit. So having your intent right and educating the community where they know there's a tourism experience, but it's great to save 10% for your future. For a rainy day, and also keeping it rooted locally, which is what we've been saying continuously, keeping it local, giving, like Liz also mentioned, give travelers better choices, like in Bhada, not only Bhada, even in Baroli, like using the traditional architecture, using the traditional way of making a homestay, constructing it the local way, so where you're employing local people, where you're getting your the material is also sourced locally, so where it's local, you're promoting local in every form of the way, so keeping it rooted locally. And just this last point I wanted to mention, like Anton said, like there was a dance performance he saw and he enjoyed, and they were not professionals but they were enjoying it, so that's what truly would make it beneficial for the travelers, like we're saying, and for the community is rooted locally, where if it's a dance, it's something they enjoy doing, it's a Taoist song, go ahead, sing it, go ahead, dance. And if the travelers enjoy it, we know they just jump in and they have joined communities. And like we all have mentioned, like it's the experience that we're going to take back. For all of us, now Panoti, we know Panoti is great. We love Panoti. Sheila ji and her talented daughter always stays back in all of our hearts. We all remember Sheila ji and her daughter always. So, you know, those are the people, the stories is what we all take back. So the handicraft, if it's made by some communities like in Kandy in Sri Lanka, and they might be priced and pegged at a rate higher, you might feel like what you can get from your airport, but you need to know the story behind that handicraft. Who made it? How did they make it? It's a community which went through so much of hardships, and today they are making those handicrafts by people who are from disadvantaged communities, and how they're sourcing the material. So the whole story, so keeping it local, keeping it rooted, so where the communities benefit and the travelers have a unique experience, vis-a-vis where you just parachute into the country, do what is there in your books and go right back, fly right out, and you miss the authentic momo making, you miss the unique experience in Kerala. So we don't want to miss any of that. So that's how I would just try to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanka. We already have few questions lined up, so I'd like to quickly move on to Anton and want to know that what we can do more on community-based tourism to make it beneficial to the locals.
I think most of the things are already said, so I can start repeating, but nobody's waiting for that. What I think is very important is that the villagers can have their traditions and also pass it over to the youth, the younger people. The community-based tourism is also helping the younger people to understand that it's important to keep their traditional way of life, the traditionals. Also, it's important that not only the families where we stay can profit from these tourists. Also, shopkeepers, guides, bike rentals, you name it, other people who can profit, and we should try to make this bigger. I know in Nepal we are already very far with this. Our company is doing also community-based tourism in other countries like Guatemala, Uzbekistan, a few more. But in Nepal, also thanks to Royal Mountain Travel, you're very far, I can say. Compliments.
Thank you, Anton. Ending this session with Nora's thought on the same question. So Nora.
Thank you. A lot has been said and I can only agree. Maybe one point, I think the community needs to be given training to be well prepared, since tourism has a big impact on the whole community. And you should make sure that the benefits are distributed evenly. So maybe there's a rotating scheme between the families receiving visitors. And in order to make that possible, you need to have the same standard, the same level of skill within all the communities. And I think that's very important. And also what Bianca said before, the community members who can maybe not host guests, they can still benefit from projects if a certain fund is used to build infrastructure, a bridge, whatever, something the community needs. So if they see a benefit from the tourists coming and disturbing in a way, I think they're also happy with it. And what Anton said also, I feel you need to make sure the culture or the values you have are kept. So define a code of conduct for the visitors. Make sure that everything that is important to you stays the way it is and is respected by the visitors. So I think with that, I would, like to end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nora. Thank you so much. So thank you once again to all our panelists for answering all the questions and for such insightful presentation. Now I'd like to move on to Q&A questions from our participants. while I am taking on questions that are placed in our Q&A box, you can also directly raise your hand and ask questions to our panelists. So I think one of the questions has been already answered, the question from Nick to Priyanka. So moving on to next question from Eliza. This question is for Priyanka and anyone else who wants to answer it. So how do you specifically support the marketing of community tourism projects, given the limitation of traditional travel marketing formats and channels? So Priyanka or anyone else can take up the question.
Right. So we also reinventing ourselves, Elisa. So be it fundraising events, working closely with our corporate partners. In the past, we were working with one corporate partner. Over the last 2 years, 1 year, we've moved on, and there are more that we're working with, where we're trying to integrate these experiences into these travel companies who are there, who are doing some amazing work, and they are looking for some authentic community tourism enterprise experiences. So that's how we are doing currently. And if anybody else would like to add on.
So if there is no one, like we can move on to another question. So I hope, Eliza, the question has been answered. Otherwise, you can raise your hand and maybe follow up and ask more questions on that. So the next question is to Nora from Kajal. My question is to Nora, as you are connecting the European market with the Nepali, what are concerns of European travel operators while you suggest Nepalese tourism products to them?
Thank you, Kaya. It's a tricky question. I think one point is about the unique selling point, that from the perspective of the European travelers or tour operators, what is sold is trekking, high mountains, but what is not emphasized so much is culture, history, community-based tourism, the other sides of Nepal. That's not so visible on our side. So I think if that is more the focus of the marketing and the product development, I think that would help. Another point is insurance. Sometimes that is raised. European tour operators fall under the European Travel Directive, which can be tricky for tour operators partnering with Nepali DMCs, because they would have to take responsibility in case something happens. And I think this is a problem that exists in Nepal about the insurance, that there is no liability insurance in Nepal, but there are others operating. So I think there are ways to solve this problem. Yeah, and I think what I would like to see is Nepal promoting more of the other side of tourism, the alternative tourism, the culture, the community-based tourism. So yeah, maybe you can do that in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nora. So we have another question. So Eliza is following up on Priyanka's answer. I was talking if you are investing in marketing scale for community-based tourism products to market themselves directly. So this question is for Priyanka.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that one, Eliza. So we, like I mentioned in the presentation, we have something called the Global Community Tourism Network, wherein we do have what you're talking about, how communities can market themselves directly. So we have got like modules, so to say. So there are these modules which communities who are a part of the network can access. So in fact, anybody globally who is running a tourism enterprise is welcome to join the Global Community Tourism Network and take advantage of these resources available there. So like Eliza, you're asking, so there are like spreadsheets, there are downloadable sheets. So the whole purpose was like people can download it, take it, translate it, and share it within their communities on how to improve your skills. So be it investing in marketing, or be it business planning, be it anything, team management, to you name it, and it's there. There are like 30+ modules on the online platform, Global Community Tourism Networks. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanka. Yeah, I think she is clear with this answer. So moving on, this question is for Anton. So you are already offering the communities from far west and west of Nepal. Are you going to explore other parts of Nepal as well? So yeah, this question is to Anton.
Yes, we intend to do that, but at the moment we are lack of staff, like in many places in the world. So we need to do what we can do with the amount of people working in our office. So not for next year, maybe the year after. But my experience in Nepal was great, and also in other countries where we have those homestays. So we really want to extend, offer more.
Yeah, thank you, Anton. That's really nice to hear, and we're really hopeful that you'll explore more parts of Nepal. Thank you.
Yes, and we are also offering already in other tours. So not only the far west, but also Barauli and Panauti and I think other places.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So now I'd like to take one last question. If there's any question from the participants' side, you could raise your hand or either write it in the chat box. If we don't have it, we'll move forward. So I think the questions are not...
Ayusha, can you hear me?
Yes,
oh, hi.
yes.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Very, very interesting. And thank you to everyone. I would like to ask a question to Nora instead of writing it. I think is quicker if I asking it. And it's still regarding the marketing. And I'm asking Nora, do you think, or do you feel, or you observe that the tour operators need a different kind of marketing, so to market the community-based tourism in comparison to other kind of product that are more traditional to them? Do they need new kind of marketing? Do you they ask for it? Do they ask for it, or how is the situation? Because I'm very curious to hear from your perspective and experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Elisa. I'm not an expert on marketing community-based tourism, I must admit. I feel the problem is more that there, as I mentioned, the perception of Nepal is still with kind of the traditional tourism products, trekking, high mountaineering, things like that. So what I feel is needed is from the side of the Nepali tour operators to develop products that make it clear that the focus is somewhere else. And then the European tour operators, of course, need also to communicate that to the clients, that maybe there's soft trekking included, but the focus of this tour will be engaging with locals or, I don't know, experiencing something in Nepal. And I think from that perspective, the destination marketing needs to include a variety of products also in international marketing. From the side of tour operators in Nepal, it goes back to product development and to defining unique selling points clearly. So to make sure that what you're selling is unique, to differentiate yourselves from your competitors. And of course, there will be elements of trekking or mountains or something, but then make sure to define clearly what it is that makes you different. That is it the culture? Is it the experiences in the community? So that needs to be defined and clearer communicated, I feel. But I'm happy to take others, like maybe Anton wants to comment as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nora, by the way.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think also promotion material is essential. We've not been in all those homestays ourselves, so it's hard and it's difficult to explain just by words on internet what clients can experience and how it is. Movies, films, photos, they will help. So if the community network can help us with this would help really.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anton, as well. Thanks for the space.
Thank you, Elisa, for the question. I think that was a really important part. So moving forward with this, as that was the last question for our Q&A session. So moving forward, I would really like to thank once again to our all esteemed panelists and all our participants for taking out the time to be here. And I'd also like to thank my team members who have worked so much behind the scenes to make this possible. So special thanks to Kaushal and Lavish. Like, I don't know how I would manage the technical part without their support. So thanking everyone, I'd also like to welcome my colleague Poonam Gupta Shrestha, COO of CHN, to wrap up the session with few of our experiences based on community-based tourism. Thank you.
So thank you, Aisha, and thank you all the panelists for joining us and sharing your experience on CBT and its importance. So moving forward, I will be sharing our experience on CBT and its importance. So Community Homestay Network has been working on CBT since 2012 very actively. So I'm very happy to share our experience working with more than 25 communities directly and indirectly and adopting CBT as our core value. So let's go through the status and relevance of CBT in Nepal. Nepal is predominantly a rural society with rich culture and ethnic diversity. So there are already more than 85 ethnic groups and diverse culture from east to west of Nepal. The culture and tradition are deeply rooted in our way of life. So there is a very high prospect of CBT in Nepal, and if developed by the future of tourism here. By far, community-based rural tourism and homestays are included in CBT concept in Nepal. The concept of community homestay started in Nepal from Sirubari in 1997, and now there are already more than 300 registered community homestays that are actively promoting community-based experiences to the travelers from all around the world. So based on our experience, I would like to share a few impacts that CBT has brought in the communities that we are working with. The first is increase in standard of living. With increase in earning as extra source of income from CBT, households have been able to increase their standard of living. Women being the face and frontmen of these community initiatives, it's helping to empower and has increased their participation in decision making in the family and the society as well. With the tourism dollars spent on the communities directly, it's benefiting local vendors and the other local businesses as well, besides the host families. Communities are able to share their culture and learn about others' culture while hosting travelers and are encouraged to preserve and promote their culture. Catering travelers from different destinations, the families get to learn many things. It broadens their knowledge, and with the income generated, it helps in the personal and the community development as a whole. So while business for so long, we understand that it can be difficult to offer community homestays to the travelers, as not everyone may be willing to stay at locals' place. But there are still ways to how local can be benefited by promoting community-based experiences and activities. One can just visit the community for the day activities. Some of the community-based activities that can be offered are wildlife and nature activities like jeep safari, jungle walk, bird watching, art and craft workshops like pottery classes, wood carving, thangka painting, hiking and outdoors with the locals in the community, lifestyles and culture immersion activities like seasonal activities, farming, or just enjoying and joining the culture performances by the organized by the local community. Promoting CBT as a travel service provider. So here are a few things that we as a travel service provider can do to promote CBT. The first is we can work with the local communities to develop new and exciting community-based experiences. The second is we can add community experiences and day trips to the travel itineraries. The third is we can add community homestays as detour in popular itineraries. And what we can do is we can create unique travel experiences featuring CBT destinations and experiences alongside popular tourist attractions. For example, for someone traveling to Nepal, Kathmandu is an obvious destination. So what we can do is we can suggest and add few community-based experiences and activities around Kathmandu. For example, it can be poetry classes with the locals in Patan, or it can be lunch at locals' house in Bungamati, or a community hike, or cycling around Panoti, or just joining for a yoga session with local yoga instructor at Nalkot. So all these communities are within few hours drive from Kathmandu, and all these activities executed by the locals there. So this can be including these activities can also be a great way of promoting CBT and adding value to the traveler's itinerary. So a case study from Narchang Community Homestay. I love sharing stories, and especially when it is about the communities that we work with. It is the story about Narchang. So Narchang is a small village in Magdi, Nepal, which is just about 30 minutes walk from Tatopani. So for those who don't know, Tatopani is a very popular place for stayover in Annapurna region. But even being so close to Tatopani, Narchang was an overlooked destination. So what we did was, in 2019, we worked with the communities to develop community homestays at Narchang. So we added Narchang as a detour to the Annapurna trekking route. Instead of staying at Tatopani, which is already overcrowded, we suggested the travelers to stay over with the communities at Narchang during the Annapurna circuit. And we have received a very good response from travelers and the partners, B2B partners that we are working with. The travelers, they stay at tea houses throughout the trek, and finally, when they stay at locals' place at Narchang, it becomes the highlight of the trek. This is how an overlooked destination that is Narchang is now gaining popularity and attention, and the locals are gradually benefiting through the homestay program. Here is the impact of CBT that we have seen in the communities that Community Homestay Network has been working closely. So there are already 400 families and 1,600 beneficiaries. The average monthly income of a family during the peak tourist season is $150. So we have been able to create 768 extra jobs through the homestay program. Already we have reached 485 women from our network. So there are already 359 cultural performers who are actively engaged in promoting and preserving the local culture. Next slide. So this was me sharing you our overall experience working with the communities throughout these years. So we have come to the end. Thank you everyone, and especially the panelists for sharing their experience, for sharing their insights on CBT. And its importance. Also, I would like to thank all the participants for their active participation. And I would like to request you to email us if you have any feedbacks at info@communityhomestay.com, So at last, we really believe tourism as a force of good. Thank you so much. Signing off from this side. Namaste and bye-bye.
Thank you. I think we are at the end of the panel discussion and today's session. So thank you so much for participating and accepting our invitation for being the panelist. So we are ending the webinar now. So thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Thank you so much. Bye-bye.